Happy game day, Seattle hockey fans. Listen, Dallas may have booted us out of playoff contention again, but there are still some things that the Seattle Kraken can work on in this game at Climate Pledge Arena. Let's talk about it on today's Monday episode, or this week's Monday episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team, the Seattle Kraken, every single day. Erica L. Ayala here, coming to you from Brooklyn, the planet of Brooklyn. Had a cool event at the Italian consulate, which was pretty cool. And I also got some Italian cookies because I definitely had a case of the Mondays. But you know what? We're here. We get to talk about the Seattle Kraken going live because we're just under 2 hours from puck drop. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this game. We know the Seattle Kraken officially eliminated after losing to Dallas the other day. We talked about this. This team, the Dallas Stars, going up against them. And, we talked about Edmonton before a few days ago. And I said, let's just get one against the Oilers, right? We know they're a little bit depleted. We know what's going on there, but let's get a win. Let's get a game here. And Dallas is going to win this season series, regardless of what happens tonight. But I think it's always nice, not to let the other team pitch a shutout, so to speak. So I want to see a little fight. I want to see a little spark. We're going to hear from Jared McCann, who felt that the team played pretty well against the Stars in the last game. So how do you account for them losing the game? Well, if we look at the instant analysis, the Sportlogic data that Allison Lucan puts together, the Seattle Kraken, 36 shots on goal to 21 for Dallas. Shot quality, 2.6 compared to 1.9. Puck in the offensive zone, also in favor of the Seattle Kraken at a 43% clip compared to 35%. High danger chances were even at 6. Shot attempts, 52 shot attempts led by Montour with 8. 36 shot attempts led by Rantanen with 6 for Dallas. We like those numbers. Entry denials, favor goes to Dallas, but 37 to 33%. Zone exits, 80 to 85% in favor of Seattle. But here's one that grinds my grits if you watch and or listen to the show. Puck battle win percentage, 67% Dallas, 33% Seattle. Now, I've definitely seen those numbers be worse, but I want those to be better. 0 for 4 on the power play for Seattle. We did hear from Dan Bylsma today. It wasn't just the 5 power plays for Dallas, but it's how those power plays came to be that, really didn't do Seattle any favors. If we were just to go back to the summary of this game and just go over the penalties, a high stick penalty, slashing, too many men on the ice, Isimon and the fight, a delay of game, pop it out of play, and then a tripping. And what we heard from Dan Bylsma today, you've heard me say this on the podcast before, it's one thing, you get penalties, they happen, they're part of the game. But the type of penalties that you get, these are a result of lapses, mental lapses, maybe, trying to take shortcuts instead of going stick to stick, body to body. And so those are some of the things that, from what we heard from Dan Bylsma, those are some of the things that the team is focused on. And so, that's why I have this first segment as bounce back. there's not anything to play for with regard to and respect to the playoffs, but there are still habits that this team can build. And that's why, I'm very anti-tank for that reason. Tank to me implies you're trying to lose. And I really just don't think this is a team that can afford to do that. So yeah, there's definitely some areas where the team can bounce back, and this is not a wave the white flag situation. In fact, we've seen the Seattle Kraken shake up the lines. So if we look at the last game against Dallas, I will, for those watching on YouTube or who will watch on YouTube, these are the lines as they were presented to us. We've got Schwartz, Wright, Eberle, Newman, Beniers, Kakko. This is from last game. Tolvanen, McCann, Burakovsky, and Cartier, Stevenson, Asimon. So good to see Stevie back out there for sure. But the lines have changed a little bit, or at least we're expecting that they will change, given some reporting coming from around the league. And I think that's good. And I think it's especially good for a specific player. Yes. I want to talk about Jared McCann. First, go back to Stevie real quick. Almost 19 minutes is his TOI, time on ice. So that's not bad whatsoever, getting back into the swing of things, working with that fourth line. So a little bit of a different vibe for him. But, the line's expecting to change again. So we'll see what happens there. But I think there's definitely a lot that this Seattle team is going to want to do. I think it sounds like some of what the team talked about is definitely on the defensive side, which, I love. I love that they're talking about defense, but of course there are also things that the team can do offensively. So if you go to my heat map, the Seattle Kraken just, allowing way too much traffic in front of their netminder. And, those are things that the team has to work on. Defensively sound, I think not. I went over all of the stats, and, I think that there need to be some things cleaned up. That being said, was not a quality start for Joey Daccord. Save percentage at 800, 16 saves on 20 shot attempts, and 2 power play goals against in the last game against Dallas. So definitely some things to be improved upon. But I'm excited because I think finally think that the Seattle Kraken are in a position where they're going to start trying to set up Jared McCann, but not just Jared McCann. We heard a lot also about Andre Burakovsky, but coming up next on Locked On Kraken, I'm going to take you to the locker room, so to speak, virtually, digitally, however you want to think about it, auditorially. That's all right. I did too much. I apologize. We're going to play a clip from Jared McCann. And specifically, I'm going to, you'll hear in the clip him talking about switching from center to wing and if he has a preference, et cetera, et cetera. I thought he had a great response. We've kind of talked about what I assumed Jared would say regarding that. He basically confirmed what I have assumed he would say. And he's one of our guys that could get to 20 goals this season. And I think that some of the moves that we are expecting to see with regard to the lineup are going to be in service of getting Jared McCann and Andre Burakovsky more looks at the net. And hey, I'm definitely here for it. Let's talk about that coming up on this live episode of Locked On Kraken. It's a game day. Lego. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. And we know the madness is upon us on this very last day of March. And FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets. When your first $5 bet wins, of course, that's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. Emphasis on that last part, because I think you should know who your Cinderellas are if they're still around in your bracket at this point in time. Oh man, Duke wasn't my Cinderella. Duke women's basketball wasn't my Cinderella, but definitely my dark horse. And if you saw that game against South Carolina, then you know why I said what I said on CBS. Anyway, moving on, you can pick your favorites, you can stay in the action, and you can get paid easy and fast with the FanDuel app. When you win, you get paid instantly, no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com to get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. And thank you, as always, for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Erica L. Ayala bringing you a live pregame show. That's right. The Seattle Kraken are hosting the Dallas Stars. Once again, lost to the Stars the other night 5-1, and that officially eliminated the Seattle Kraken from contention. If we look at the standings, I know we don't want to, but let's just do it. We're going to do this exercise for the next handful of weeks here. But you can see there it is, the Seattle Kraken. Another one bites the dust, and by another one, that would be us, the Kraken. We joined the San Jose Sharks, aka Defense is for Nerd, aka Tanking is Cool, Chicago, Nashville, and then yes, Seattle. And if you keep climbing up here, you'll see the team that we are taking on. That's right, Dallas joins Winnipeg now as a team that is officially in. This is, of course, in the Western Conference. You can see that things still happening over in the East. The Caps, though, have locked everything down. Of course, Overwatch in full effect. Might have some more to say about Ovechkin, depending how things go, but the takes. Anyway. We'll get into that or not. We'll see. But the Seattle Kraken. Let's focus on the Seattle Kraken. This is Locked On Kraken. And I've been saying this for a while. Jared McCann, I think that he has been such a team player this year. I'll say it this way for today's show. I think he's been a really important team player. He's bought into what the team is trying to do. At times, as I've said before, that has left him as the odd man out with regard to his ability to be set up to score or even to play make. And I think that's coming to an end. As I mentioned earlier in today's show, we've seen him centering for the Seattle Kraken. He was with Tolvanen on the left, Burakovsky on the right. But per our good friends at Sound of Hockey, the morning skate lines, and this was also alluded to in the post morning skate media availability with Dan Bilesma, things are going to shake up a little. So if we go from left to right, I'm going to read these from left to right per our good friends at Sound of Hockey, who also had a nice little PW nugget. We're just about, if you listen to the Women's Hockey Report, we're just about at that 4 to 6 week mark. We've had Amy Shearer on the show talking about PWHL expansion. And you're going to want to tune in this week on Saturday on the Locked On NHL channel. I'll just say that. But check out Sound of Hockey also. But per Sound of Hockey, it will be left to right, Schwartz, Beniers, Kako, Newman, Stevenson, Eberle. So we see Stevenson move up, McCann, right, Burakovsky, and then Tolvanen, Hayden, and Isimon. I really like this chemistry, hopeful chemistry with Wright centering McCann and Burakovsky. All of these guys I want to see activated a little bit more. And McCann had some great things to say about Wright and Berkey as well. So did Dan Bilesma. Of course, they were asked a little bit about both of them. But let's first hear what McCann has to say about playing center and or compared to wing, I suppose, and what it's like to shift gears. And here's Jared McCann in a post morning skate scrum.
Jared, do you have much of a preference between center or wing?
No.
Is there much
right
of a
D? I don't know.
Right D. Is there? What about goalie?
Yeah, I haven't played much goalie.
Is there much of a shift in terms of how you prepare yourself or how you play the game when you're playing one position versus the other?
A little bit when it comes to like obviously timing, stuff like that. Like I mean, as a winger, you got to be able to slash across. Give the D an extra breakout option. It's as a centerman, I think you got to work a little bit more to come into the zone and be lower and slower for the D. And defensively, you got to be quicker on checks. Kind of as a winger, you got to just be in the right spot and try to take away the D pass.
With the extra distance skated as a center, do you find yourself trying to conserve energy a little bit more when you're playing that position?
Sometimes, yeah. I wouldn't say all the time, but definitely later in games, I think you have to be smart with it.
Do you find one easier than the other, or do they both just have their own set of challenges?
Yeah, they both are. Yeah. Wall battles, catching the pucks off of rims. But being a centerman, obviously, like I said, you got to be in the right spot at the right time. You got to be low and slow for the D-man, be an option, but you also have to get up in the play and be in the forecheck, right? So it's, like you said, both challenging.
Unmute myself. That's always helpful. So Jared McCann talking a little bit about bouncing back and forth. So there you go. He prefers right D. Of course, that was a joke. He said he doesn't really have a preference. Did kind of break down what the differences are, including if you are conserving energy, perhaps when you're playing that centerman position. He also, as I mentioned, talked about who we are expecting to see him operate with tonight, and that would be Shane Wright. He talked a lot about his defensive mindset and that he saw that as a growth area, being able just to manage and control things by playing a certain type of way defensively. And what we're hearing from Kraken camp, specifically from Dan Bilesma, is that, the confidence, a little bit of the flow continues to come back for Andre Burakovsky. And so that's leading to him playing a little bit more of an aggressive game. I do remember one time, I won't say the reporter, but I do remember a reporter was alluding to whether the way Andre Burakovsky played led to some of the injuries that he dealt with the first few seasons he was with the Seattle Kraken. Thought that was an interesting thing. And we haven't seen Berkey hurt this season, but I also think that he's been hesitating a little. We've broken this down, several months ago now, but he's talked about the confidence. So being able to find that right balance of playing your kind of hockey while also, of course, you want to play smart, especially if you've been injury prone. You don't want to be out with injury, but there's a little bit of an edge that you have to have when it comes to playing hockey. And it sounds like Andre Burakovsky is getting that back. And I don't think it's a moment too soon. I talked about some players that we are definitely looking at to see if they can get to if they can get to 20 goals. And Jared McCann is one of those players, and I think playing with the likes of Burakovsky, but especially Shane Wright, when Shane Wright is really playing some of his best hockey, I think that bodes well for McCann. We also want to see Matty Beniers continue to thrive. And so, I've said I just want all of the players that we have that can potentially reach 20 goals. Let's just get it done. And no better time than tonight against the Dallas team. They already know that they're in. They know that we're out. You might think, does anyone have anything to play for? Well, I think it goes back to, I don't see a reason why this game should be out of hand in any way. There shouldn't be any egregious hits. I think there's for lack of a better term, like a gentleman's agreement that could potentially be in play, that we're just gonna play straight up hockey. None of the extra, craziness. Just play hockey, play hard-nosed hockey. That doesn't mean you hold back, but it also means that you don't cross the line. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay from both perspectives. For the Seattle Kraken, though, that cannot be relenting, and it has to get back to focusing on the opportunity to win your puck battles. And a lot of that is being in the right place at the right time. And if you're not in the right place at the right time, then recovering and getting your body hustling, moving your legs, using your knees to get to the spot and not reaching, not over, like, not getting those silly penalties, which were a little bit of the name of the game. Not sure exactly who we will see in net. I'm assuming it will be Philip Grubauer. I think it just needs to be Philip Grubauer. I don't know how many times I have to keep saying it. Play the guy. Just play the guy. Give Joey a little bit of rest. I mean, you want them both to be feeling good going into the offseason, but, let's get Philip some reps. We can do it. We can do it. So coming up, I've talked about a few areas of improvement already, but let's specifically get into the areas that I think the Kraken will focus on, a la 3 keys to tonight's game. That's coming up on today's live episode, live game day pre-game episode of Locked On Kraken. And thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Erica L. Ayala here, your host of Locked On Kraken, also a contributor to CBS Sports. I mentioned at the top of the show, I was at the Italian consulate. I got a gator. They gave out a gator, a water bottle, and then, I can't show you now, but because it's attached to my other bag, but they gave us a tote bag with the mascots for Milano, Cortina. It was just great to hear some of the updates, including that the sliding sports will be in Milano Cortina. That was pretty much alluded to about a week ago when they did some of the testing. We are also hearing that any of the updates to the stadiums, including the ice hockey arena, are on time. So we should be good to go. But it's definitely been down to the wire. And as someone at the event told me, Italians, which sounds very familiar, I was like, I might be Italian. But the person alluded to that Italians, they kind of run and operate on their own pace. They might not be meeting the deadline at all of the different check-ins, but they will definitely get the job done. And I was like, I can relate to that. So it was good to hear some updates. I'll probably have some of that over at Black Rosie Media and CBS Sports. If you're interested in that, check it out. But okay, on to the Seattle Kraken. I want to see the Seattle Kraken really attack the net. This shouldn't be a surprise if you're an everydayer or an OGer, or quite honestly, if you just watch the Seattle Kraken. I think that they have some amazing games where they're able to attack the net, and then they have games where they're a little absent, and they are pushed out to the perimeter a little bit too much. So I want to see point number 1, key to the game for me, and it goes back to that heat map that I showed earlier on the episode. Get to the net. Get net front, have a net front presence. Don't be afraid to pick up some garbage goals, but that also means you got to shoot the puck. And shooting the puck, having shots on net was not the problem in the last Dallas game. The shot quality wasn't even the problem in the last Dallas game, but the Stars were very opportunistic and they were able to execute very well on the shots that they did have. I think also that has to do with a little bit of again, the defensive breakdowns for the Seattle Kraken, the amount of times that the Seattle Kraken had to be on the penalty kill. And while maybe that didn't result in power play goals immediately for Dallas, it's just the lack of execution overall was not great for Seattle. So what does that boil down to? You got to play a really hard style of hockey. It's possible, but we need to get back to the lunch pail days, right? Dave Haxtell talked about this was a lunch pail team. Well, let me tell you, especially after the trade deadline, still a lunch pail team. All right. We're not we're not getting served up the buffet or, sitting at tables with white tablecloths for lunch. No. We're packing sandwiches. We're packing sandwiches, baby. This is a team that's got to work hard, and the work ethic has to match the style of play that we have right now. So You got to really just be hard nosed. I talked about it earlier, stick to stick, body to body. Those are the kind of things that I want to see. And then I want to take you over to the Seattle Kraken, website. And we've got our 3 keys to the game coming from who wrote today's or the game essentials. I always say that it's basically the same thing. The game essentials from Jeff Baker. We already talked about this one, but stop giving Dallas the extra man. That was a big problem. Not a top power play in the team, Jeff writes, but 22.8 efficiency is still 13th best, and Dallas has plenty of guys that know what to do with the puck. So now here's something we've also alluded to earlier on the show, and just now actually, shot volume was there, but quality needs to go up. And so I agree with this. I do think that goes back to why I wanted to see more net front presence. And you gotta attack the defense so that you open up some lanes. Don't get pushed out to the side. So yeah, I like that. And then in the Know Your Foe section, it's talking just about that this is the team that has the 4th best goals for and the 3rd best goals against in the league. And only Winnipeg is in the top 5 of both categories. But I like that because we know how this Kraken team has played against Winnipeg. They have depth, is what Jeff Baker goes on to write. But there's also an opportunity here. And that has to come from the Seattle Kraken. I'm paraphrasing some of what Jeff says. I basically think he and I agree here. The Seattle Kraken have to take some pride in their defensive structure, their communication. And again, as Jeff said, and as I also said, don't give them the extra man. So this is a winnable game. Will the Seattle Kraken win? Well, I guess we'll have to watch in just a little bit here. Before we go, I know there's been a lot of tanking conversation on the podcast as of late. You know where I stand. But if you're interested in where the Seattle Kraken stand, here we go. Tankathon 2025. The Seattle Kraken have improved their odds. So if you are Team Tank, I guess there you go. Here's some data for you. But the draft lottery odds for the Seattle Kraken still not quite at 10% for, if you round up, I suppose. But, 9.5% for that number 1 pick. But we're looking like it's going to be that 5 overall pick. Now, a lot of mock drafts that I've been reading, and we'll start getting into this a little bit more since the season for the Seattle Kraken is going to be wrapped up here soon. But mock drafts, overall, there's data that suggests that things really drop off after 6. That's for any draft class. But a lot of experts really looking at the top 4 here for this upcoming draft. So Seattle, not great pick, not great odds for the 3rd pick, which is so interesting how these all, math is so interesting to me in that I love when other people crunch the numbers. I'm not necessarily one that is going to do it on my own volition. Anyway, 44.6% odds to get the 5th overall pick. 20.8% odds to get the 6th pick, 15.4 to get the 4th pick, 9.5 odds for 1 or 2, and 0.3 odds to get the 3rd overall pick for your Seattle Kraken. We'll be definitely looking at that a little bit more as we inch ever closer. Things are so weird. The buttons are a little weird today. Anyway, as we inch ever closer to, the draft, it's unfortunate that the Seattle Kraken are officially eliminated, though we kind of knew. And in some ways, I'm just glad it's, official. It's done. It still stinks. We heard Jared McCann. I didn't play that segment, but, he and the team know that this is not where they want to be this time of year. There's been a lot of times that this team could say that this season. So there's just a lot more discipline overall that's needed from this team. And that's why when you think of tanking in what I think a lot of people use the term to mean is that intentionally losing, which would include players, there's so much that this team needs to do from a discipline and habits and foundational piece that I think that focusing on those things will likely still result in losses. But it's a non-negotiable. I really think that this team needs to develop much stronger habits, much stronger willpower, and that sandpaper, that moxie. It doesn't come from nowhere. You have to have a heart space in order to really not live there, but use it to propel you to the next level. And the Kraken just, they weren't in that space, in that headspace, in that mind space, to be able to utilize some of their tough losses. This is my, obviously, opinion. My analysis is that we got into tough headspace at times this season, and it kind of temporarily sometimes, but it affected and impacted the ability to go out full force. And I'm not saying that that's easy. It's definitely, though, a part of the job. And that's the part of the job I think the Seattle Kraken can still work on. And these are great reps to have. These games do count, maybe not for us to make the playoffs, but they do count for the record. You will have you'll have these stats, the film to look at. You'll have the physical reminders when you play these games. And for the young guys in particular, that is useful. I really do think it's useful. Jared McCann is my player to watch for today. I want to see him get to at least goal 19. If he gets to goal 20, I'd be super, super happy. But let's get at least one goal for Jared McCann. Who else do I think is going to score? I'm going to go McCann, 2 goals for McCann and 1 for Montour. There we go. He's another guy we got to get to 20. So Maddie B, I like, my gut is also kind of telling me Maddie B, that's a lot of goals already, but we'll see. I'm definitely leaning into McCann and Montour. And there's something that was like, hey, Erica, you should probably mention Beniers. You know why? Because it's the year of Beniers. That's what Jessica Campbell told me right here on Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast covering the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I am your host, Erica L. Ayala, and it is time to remind you to be kind to yourself. Got this little flyaway alfalfa that's driving me mad, but that's okay. I'm going to be kind to myself. Sometimes the curls just have to be free. But when I can be kind to myself, usually that gives me the bandwidth and the empathy and the humanity to be kind to other people. So let's do that. We can do it for sure. It's Trans Visibility Day. I've loved some of the posts that I've seen from people embracing the opportunity. I'm not wearing my pin today. I have a pin that says, I will go with you. And specifically, it was given to me at a sporting event so that I was a broadcaster for the women's league prior to the PWHL. And it was given to me by the supporters group specifically as a way to identify that I stand with trans children, which I definitely do, not just trans youth, but trans people overall, all people. And so, yeah, I'm not wearing my pin, but I do have some pink on and the blue from the background. So we've got a little bit there. But listen, I'm a human. I make mistakes. I'm not always kind, which is why I'm really grateful that I have this episode or this show to remind myself as much as it is a reminder to everyone else. But we can certainly try. And holding space for your own humanity and other people's humanity, I think, is what we need more of in the world. But yeah, happy Trans Visibility Day. I, again, will go with you if you need support. And I will catch you on the next episode of Locked On Kraken. Hold fast, stay true, loud and proud, especially those at CPA. Let's go Kraken. And we'll have another episode where hopefully we can talk about a few players getting closer to 19 goals on the season. Let's go. Yes, we might be out, but we're not down, Kraken fans. Enjoy the game, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out.